Hey YouTube, Mike here. How we doing today? Alright, today is the 6th video in the series on Rinnai tankless heaters. Today we're going to go over what tools and basic parts you'll need to do some type of service, warranty, repair work, maintenance on a Rinnai tankless heater. Now, if any of you have gone to the level 3 course, they stress a multimeter, a manometer, and a Phillips screwdriver. Now, I can tell you right now, you need a lot more. Now, what you see to the left of me is a lot of the tools we use, or I use, when I have to go repair a Rinnai. The ones that are out on the workbench are the tools. The rest of them, we do service other equipment. So it's kind of multiversal tool bags. So between just pulling a fan out, changing a fuse, of course checking gas pressure, checking voltage, whether it's low voltage, line voltage, or ohms, to pulling out the heat exchanger and putting a new heat exchanger in. You just can't do it with a Phillips screwdriver. Okay? So we'll start and we'll go over the basic tools that you would at least need. Alright, first thing is this bag is the first bag that I bring in to the job site. Now, again, there is a lot of stuff on here that, you know, is for other things. But this bag here, flashlight, needle nose pliers, magnetic tray, small little screwdriver. This is a basic set that I bring in. On the Rinnai units, when you check gas pressure, there's, and let me grab it and I'll show it to you. This is the gas inlet. Now, this one has an Allen screw for this Allen key and that Allen key. The newer models have a machine screw inside of it. So you're going to need to have this Allen key, which is 3/16. That is what removes this screw to check gas pressure. So this is what I bring in first to basically do a quick test if I have to check for gas pressure. And basically, you see, it just pulls right out. And then you would screw your manometer port into it to check for gas pressure. We'll go over the hoses in a minute. So, a 3/16 Allen key and a good Phillips screwdriver. Now, I purchased a snap-on 8-inch screwdriver. I've used a few different, as you can see, I'm a big Milwaukee fan, but this screwdriver has a titanium tip, has almost like tap cuts in the tip, that once you give it a couple of wraps, it gouges into the screw if the screw is in bad shape. Very powerful, and of course guaranteed for life. So a very good Phillips screwdriver. Now I'm going to show you the screws so we can go over the tools. Rinnai has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws. We're going to start with these little, basically what they almost call self-tapper screws. There's a large, there's a medium, and then there's a small. Now, when we go over the major parts, like the PC board, removing the fan, removing the burner plate, the access ports, the flame sensor, and the igniter, I'll show you what these screws are for. Then you have the screw that holds the door. 4 of them. They have a plastic washer. Then you have this other kind of self-tapping screw with a washer, large head, that holds the top and bottom of the PC board. Then you have this machine screw with a starter that actually holds in the clips from the heat exchanger down into the outlet side and the water servo valve are these clips that hold the heat exchanger in. That's the screw that goes into it, that locks it in. It clips onto a brass part, and this here will screw it in. And then the last screw is this machine screw, okay, which is, I don't know them offhand, but 5/16. Again, another snap-on nut driver, and that will take out the gas valve screw. Now, it does have a Phillips in it, and it's a 5/16 head. So you can use a good Phillips screwdriver to remove it, or the nut driver. Now, it's an aluminum screw, so when you drop it inside, you're not going to be able to use, because I carry two different types of magnets, telescoping magnets. One has a light on it, telescopes and bends, and the tip of it is a magnet. A very small, and it's stuck already, a very small screwdriver. Now, there's two reasons. One, on the older models, to set the secondary gas pressure on the PC board, you need a small screwdriver to get in to set it, and that we're going to go over in a future video. But also the small screwdriver is, us as tradesmen have those big fingers, and there's tiny little dip switches in two banks, an upper bank and a lower bank. This helps pop the dip switch over when you have to set the dip switches. A regular, like this is 11-in-1 multi screwdriver. Of course, two good flashlights. I carry this one and one for my head. I carry one of those magnetize and demagnetize, so I can magnetize the tips of my screwdriver. A pair of pliers, small. You don't need something that big. You're not going to be really taking the water pipe or the gas pipes apart. If you do, you do need like a 10 and a 14 and a big pair of pump pliers, but small pair of pliers. Because the small pair of pliers, we carry the needle nose. Now, in my bag, I always carry an extra filter, because a good majority of the time is the filter problem. And this here is a Rinnai filter. Basically, you have the filter, the O-ring, and the housing. O-ring slips on, filter goes in and locks, and then it's inserted. I don't know if I have a, yes I do. This is the inlet side, and it goes in there and screws in. Now, when it's in there, we use a pair of needle nose pliers, as you can see, to remove it and to put it back in. But a lot of times, if somebody monkeyed with this already, they might have broken the inside tabs. So that's where our little pair of pliers comes in. So we use the needle nose to remove, and this is the cold water inlet side of the tankless heater. And then just to show you, okay, then this mates to the water servo valve, and then that is what clips on, that clips on the copper tubing that goes in for the feed. So it's very good to have one of these in your bag. I carry a multimeter that will go down to ohms, but the tips of the meter have tiny points to get into the plugs when you have to test the series circuit through the tankless heater. So it's important to have the bigger part, but it's also important to have it small tips on it to get into the plug. Then I carry two different manometers. I carry one manometer that's just inches of water column, that's it. Then I carry a second manometer that's inches of water column and PSI, because sometimes I need to know how many pounds, if I have pounds going to the regulator, and then what I have coming out of it. Now, the manometer hoses. And let me get the gas. Oh, almost had it. There's two different hoses that you need. You need a fairly, because these manometers are magnetized. They have a magnet. They will stick on the side of the tankless heater. That's another good thing. Field piece is my go-to. That's on my work truck. This is actually on my personal truck. But field piece manometer, I find it to be the best manometer around. It's about $140. And that's with two sets of hoses, some fittings, the manometer, the magnet, a case, instruction sheet, the whole 9 yards. So, this one here is for the older style gas valves, the gas inlet. All right, you're always going to have this red piece over it when it comes from the factory, and you're always going to check gas pressure, so you're going to remove it. By removing it, tell someone else that gas pressure has been checked. You take out your Allen key, and it's also good to have a few of those, and then you're going to see them inside my little box here. And then you screw on your piece, and now you can check the gas pressure before it goes in. On the newer tankless heaters, there's actually a machine screw in there. And that machine screw actually has kind of like a little tunnel that sticks out of it. And that's what this hose is for. This will fit over that little tunnel, make a seal, and now that's how you check your pressure. So it basically has almost a screw like that, plugging up the capping or plugging the inlet, the outlet there. I also carry this CO2 blow tool. Okay, it's a with cartridges. So basically, the cartridge goes into here. Once it's punctured, you push this trigger. It releases quite a bit of pressure. I use this if I have to blow out the burner or the flue area. I don't have to bring a big compressor with me or a vacuum. This thing will do the trick. This is you can get it in an AC store. It's drain line cleaner. It's what blows out the air conditioned drain lines. It's great for a lot of type of gas, pilots and stuff like that. I use it for. Okay, wire brush for the inside of the filter, and also for the burner tubes, and then blow it out with the CO2. I carry inside, some stake-ons if I have to redo the electric, wire nuts, more of those Allen keys, and the screws in case it's an outdoor unit, drop in the grass, you got to have it extra. And some other basic screws and ground lugs and door screws and stuff like that in here. We'll get to the red box in a second. Okay, I also carry, on some of the older models, you need a 9/32 socket for the burner screws. But that's on some of the older models, I still carry it. Now, I carry an O-ring pick set to pick out the O-rings. When you're changing out, either it's the water servo valve, you're changing the gas part, you're going to have, here it is, you're going to have the O-ring. Now this one is very simple to remove, but other O-rings have recesses, and they're inside, and they stick in there. And then the O-ring removal tool actually helps, you don't gouge the front face of the surface. So an O-ring removal tool. And I carry this DeWalt box, which is actually magnetized, and it'll stick on the side of the tankless heater. Also very important to have is a controller. This was salvaged off of an interior unit. I put 2 stake-ons on it, because if you have an exterior unit, and you're by yourself, instead of running in and out of the house to look at the controller, you just unwire the controller and put this on, and now you can diagnose and see if there was any codes, or you can operate the unit, see when it fires or it doesn't fire. So that I carry inside my bag. Okay, so I also carry this small little DeWalt screw gun. It's a screwdriver and it also becomes a drill, but it's a gyro. You see, I have to spin my wrist, and the more I spin it, the slower it goes, and then reverse. I don't recommend, until you really get used to, putting these screws in with the drill. But you can at least get it started, and you can actually feel the tension better with this drill than any other drill. That's why I carry this drill, plus it's very small, it fits very nicely inside of that VetaPro backpack. Okay, so that's basic tools that I have. Oh, also one other thing is one of these outlet testers. The one that tells you if there's an open ground, an open neutral, no ground, or if it's correct. On the first video, I stressed that it is very important for a Rinnai to have a ground. And if you have an interior Rinnai or even exterior Rinnai that has either a pigtail on it, you need to see, one of your diagnostic things is if it's got grounded plug. And this, by pushing it in, will tell you if the two lights on the side are lit, it says correct, that it's been correct. Okay, then you can check inside, make sure it's grounded, and that's why I carry stake-ons to re-splice and make the connection into it. All right. As far as the parts, let's, I'm going to move the camera over to here so we can see a little better. Let me just make sure we're in focus here. Okay. This is my secondary line of defense. This is a box that I carry on the truck that has a lot of Rinnai parts. There is other parts in here, but most of it is Rinnai. Up here in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bins is screws that I've salvaged off of old Rinnais that we junked. So the self-tapping screws, the door screws, the gas screws, the water valve screws, the screws for the PC board, just tons of screws that we salvaged. Also the clips, the little plastic clips that tie the wire inside of the wire harness. Now, when you guys start servicing Rinnais, you'll find out that these plugs here, only mate to each other. They will not go together another one. So when they go together, you got the right plug. You don't have to guess. You don't have to put A, B, C, D, E. They're all good. And some of them do have to match up with the red line, but they match up together. I carry a lot of extra plugs. I carry temperature sensors. I carry thermistors, which are this little thing right here. This is also very important to have extra. These are thermistors. I carry a little thing of Scotch-Brite, and I use it for 2 reasons. Clean off the thermistor. Once you pull it out, there's a tiny little O-ring. It most likely will be inside the heat exchanger. Make sure you don't lose it, but I'll show you the O-rings that I carry. Clean this off, reinsert it, put the clip back on, put the screw in. That could be one of your problems, but very important, a little piece of Scotch-Brite. All right, that is the, and I took apart a lot of the pieces of the wire harness. Okay, a big common problem is fuses. They have a 3 amp fuse. As you can see, I carry 6, 12, 18 fuses. That's a very big problem. You have and let me see, yes, here's one half of it. I'll have to just take it out, and here's the other part of it. You have, this is your fuse connectors. So you have, they're blown fuses. Blown fuses, then it's not going to work. So you need to check, make sure you have incoming power, and then if you don't have outgoing power out of it, check your fuses. So it's very important to carry fuses. I carry 6 fuses in my bag. I carry 2 fuses in the small bag. And I carry 18 fuses in here. Hose. This hose goes from in the gas valve. It's important from the burner tray to the gas valve. Sometimes this hose could go bad, sometimes it'll break, it'll be filled with water, it could be filled with muck. If you can't clean it out, you have to replace the hose. I carry an extra hose. I carry flame rod and burner rod, extra pieces. Basically what it is, I'll show you these. These are used, but they still could be, these are the flame sensors. Again, the Scotch-Brite. You don't want to use a file. You don't want to use your knife. You don't want to break the ceramic. Sometimes it just has oxidation on it. You're getting flame failure. You're not getting any flame signal. Take it off. Clean it. That will be in a future video on how to remove them. And then the gasket, very important. This is for that have two sensors and the igniter, but that's the gasket. Just, you know, take this side out. That's the double, and then this is the newer model. So I carry both, but this here will go through this, and the plate will go on that, and that makes the seal between the burner housing and the outside. So very important, a piece of Scotch-Brite. Electrical tape. Have some electrical tape. Okay, O-rings. These are the O-rings that I carry. These O-rings here are for two different gas valves. The gas part of the O-ring has a rounded side and a flat side. That's what these are. Then there's two different types of O-rings for the heat exchanger. On the 6.5, the 7.5, the 5.3, you have two copper lines. You have one that cold water that feeds the heat exchanger, and then the hot water that comes out. On the bigger units, there's three. There's a feed, there's a mix, and then there's the outlet. So you have different O-rings. You can purchase these from Rinnai, very inexpensive, or from your local dealer that stocks Rinnai parts. Very easy to purchase these. Like to buy a filter, it's like $4.50. And this pack of O-ring I think was like $3. And you get enough to do at least three different tanklesses. All right, igniters. Igniters are also important to carry. All right, a lot of these I've salvaged off of units that had bad heat exchangers, and we swapped them out. So I took the igniter. This is a Rinnai igniter. Carry them. I carry the clips, the pieces that mount these to the unit. The gasket material. When you guys go to swap out a heat exchanger, you're going to get the heat exchanger in a box. The box is also returnable because you're going to take that heat exchanger, put it in the box, and mail it back to Rinnai so that they can look at it and see what the problem was. But inside the box, you're going to get different type of gasket material so that when you're removing the burner plate, the observation plate on the top, you're removing those pieces. You got to scrape off the old gasket and glue on the new gasket. Very, very good instructions on every single part that comes from Rinnai. What else do we have in here? That is all. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll show you. Here is. These are the two different mountings that mount the heat exchanger water to the water servo valve and or the outlet side. This is the outlet side, and then if you have a 94 or the newer units have two of these. It's that good to carry extra. So when you get an old tankless, salvage as much parts as you can off of it and put it inside of a tote box. I even carry the bracket that mounts the PC board, because one mounts to the top, this mounts to the top, and the bottom one has a screw that mounts to the back of the unit. Burner plates. This is the actual burner plate that gasket. So this thing mounts on those two smaller screws. You have the igniter and then the sensor and then the gasket. Then on the newer models, there's a second sensor. So carry extra of these. I think that's about it. Some of the units, the fan has a shroud that actually pushes in when you have to remove the fan. Most of them were the older model. This is what actually locked the tube going from the burner to the fan. This is what locked it on. I've had these that were actually broken, so I carry one on the truck. Those are very hard to get, but you probably could buy them from Rinnai if you really, really want to carry one. Okay, let me get this camera back into position here. Okay, YouTube. I hope this was helpful for you. And, you know, just you'll be collecting the tools as you go along and you see what you need. But what I just showed you, excuse me, I just forgot to show you the most important tool. This little magnetic tray is probably the most important tool. Harbor Freight, $2.99. I carry one in this bag and one in there. Even with mounted to the side of the tankless heater, the screws fit in there perfectly. And now, especially on the external units, you're not searching them through the grass. Okay? All right, YouTube, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments below. And if you like these videos, please like and subscribe. And if you want, if any of you are into woodworking, you could check out my other channel, which is called Mike's Woodshop, where I do tool reviews and different type of cabinet and furniture builds. Okay? You all have a very safe and productive week, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.